So I don't know if this is a thing, but is it normal for people to have play dates and just drop their kid off at the age of 5?
Are you asking for a friend?
Yep.
That's a great discussion point.
All right, let's discuss this. Very important, but let's do intros.
Okay. Hello, and welcome to the next episode of It's Your Time to Shine, a podcast about being a mom in a modern world. My name is Juspreet Kaur, and with me is my friend Lisa Vora.
Who's asking for a friend.
Yes, who has very important questions. Okay, you're saying hypothetically that...
No. Jokes aside, ain't no hypothetical. It's me. Ha ha ha. Cat's out of the bag. So let me tell you what happened. So Allie has a good friend at school. I don't know the mom really that well, but they're good friends. They're always talking. I met her once. She seemed cool. I told her I would contact her for a play date. And I'm one of those, I mean it. I don't just say it. Like, oh yeah, we'll do it, knowing we won't. I do that with like other things like, going out for coffee, but not play dates, because play dates are really important to me. But when you only have one child,
sure,
because they're alone. So you feel like, okay, as entertaining as I think I am, she needs someone her age.
Yeah, that social interaction, you have to prioritize a little bit differently.
Exactly. It's not just automatic for us, right? So I texted her and I was like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Does, so-and-so want to come for a play date? And then she wrote back, oh, sure. Yeah, that would be great, but I won't be able to come. Her au pair would come. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I mean, whatever. That's fine. Someone's coming. I mean, I wanted to get to know the mom, but that's fine too. And I told Allie and she was excited. And then the night before, she called me and I got a voicemail from her. She left a message saying, oh, I have another 9-year-old at home, so would it be okay if the au pair just dropped, so-and-so off, and then they would pick them up, whatever, an hour later, 90 minutes later. And I'm like, what? I think that's when I texted you. Like, I thought that was weird. But I also didn't want to be weird, so I didn't want to write back like, no, it's not okay, because I actually don't know what the protocol is. And I'm like, well, the kid's good. I mean, my biggest thing is if the kid's bad, that would be, that would be a definite no. And I already told Allie, and she was so excited, so I didn't want to take that away from her. So I just wrote her a text like, hey, got your voicemail? Sure, no problem. And, exclamation. So it sounded like I really had no problem. I didn't even think it was weird, even though I totally did, because if we had a text from me to you side by side, you would see how weird I thought it was.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think it's interesting that you're like, I don't want to be weird, so I just said it was okay. So instead, I decided to bring this onto our podcast for hundreds of people to listen to and call the lady out that way.
Yep, passive aggressive. It's the American way.
Fantastic. Okay, so in that scenario, that's interesting. Personally, I think that 5 in my mind is a little young to leave my child alone with someone else. I would want to get to know the parents and also like know more about the household and like where they live. But I can understand like if you already knew someone pretty well and then all of a sudden this thing popped up like, hey, I thought that my 9-year-old would also have plans and those fell through. So therefore, would it be okay if I leave the child? So that's kind of my perspective. What's interesting though is like, I wouldn't want to leave my kid.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. That's what's like, how do they know you're not like some type of predator or like...
Exactly.
Yeah. Who else is at your house?
I would know for sure I would never have done that. If I didn't know the parent, there's no way I would leave Allie at their house. I just wouldn't. I need to know the parent.
Yeah. At that age, I agree. Now, when they get a little bit older and when you know the family really well, or if it's your neighbors or something, like my next door neighbor has 3 kids and their oldest is the same age as my youngest. I could let my daughter go over there, no problem. Like, I know the husband, wife, I know the kids, I know their dog, like, you know what I mean? So I feel like it makes a difference.
Of course, when they're older, right. 5, I just thought was a little on the young side, and I don't know them. That was just 2 factors. But can I just say, I am a big fan after the play date because she was a good kid, and guess what I was doing? I used that time to work.
Oh, did you really?
Yes.
So you took that babysitting opportunity that your daughter's friend's mom took. You were like, wait, this turned into babysitting. And then you were like, flipped it on its head and said, no, you're babysitting Allie. See you guys later.
Exactly. I ain't no babysitter. So no, I had my laptop. I was in the kitchen. They were down in the basement playing. All was good. As long as I didn't hear a crash, anything breaking, I'm good.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan now because now there's not that awkward, forced conversation with moms or what if you don't like them? It's just not weird. Great. Your kid's playing with my kid and I'm doing my work. This is awesome.
Oh, so now you're going to schedule more of these?
I am. And I'm going to be like, and please, Mom, don't come. That's not creepy.
That's hilarious. That's really funny. Okay, so here's a question I have for you. What if they came over and the kid was really like misbehaved and you'd only gone like 20 or 30 minutes and you were like, okay, this is terrible. What would you have done?
Oh, no, then I would have texted the mom and been like, or I would have texted the au pair because, she had said if anything happens, text me.
Oh, really? And said like, sorry, this isn't working out. What would you say? What would the text be?
Oh, my God. I don't know. You're right. I mean, it depends, right? Because how bad, I guess, is probably better. I mean, like if it's if they're bad and doing something and I'm like, hey, guys, please stop. And they stop. Okay. But I'm saying if it got to the point where they're just misbehaving way too much.
Because something I've found is like if you have like decently behaved children, then someone else's child really misbehaving, you're just like, what do I do now? Because I don't even know if this is normal or not.
You're right. It wouldn't be as easy as let me just tell them because this is Allie's friend,
I'll just admit that I would probably say nothing and maybe be like, okay, let's watch TV or something. Something where you're not like doing whatever's annoying.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you have way more experience than I do. Hasn't this ever happened to you?
Well, I have a similar type of story. I don't remember. I don't remember if I ever had the case where I thought I was going to like have a play date with a mom and I was like ready and they were just like, I'm dropping my kid off. But I have like a kind of similar story and it's funny. I was just thinking about it the other day. So we had 2 little boys in Amrik's class when he was younger and they were twins and he was friends with one of them, but not friends with the other one. And so Amrik had a birthday party. We had all of his friends over just to play video games and like eat cake. It was like a very low key at home party. And the dad of one of the twins comes, knocks on the door, and he's like, oh, here's my son, so-and-so. And I was like, okay, nice to meet you. Come on in. And I always give the option at parties for parents to stay if they want to stay because I am like that. If I don't know the parents, I'm like cautious about it. And so I'm always like, oh, would you like to stay? And he's like, no, I wouldn't. But I'm so glad you asked because did you know that this child also has a twin brother? And I was like, no, I did not know that. And he was like, yeah. And here he is. And he was standing a couple steps down behind the dad.
Did he say it exactly like that? Or are you like spicing up the story a little?
Yes. Yes, he did. And then he goes, and then he was like, would it be okay if he also came to the party? And I was like, sure. I said sure because I'm usually pretty welcoming and like that's kind of our culture, right? To be like, oh yeah, anyone can come.
Yeah, I probably would have done the same thing.
But afterwards, that boy was so poorly behaving, like he was really misbehaving.
Oh,
afterwards,
wow.
I was like, okay, hold on a second. For the dad to have a really good kid and this kid that's pretty naughty, he knows that the kid's naughty.
Yeah.
And he totally left the kid at my house for like an hour and a half or 2 hours while he like went to Home Depot. He was like, oh, I need to run to Home Depot real quick. And then came back 2 hours later to get the other kid. So I was like, yeah, this is shady. But the funniest thing is they later moved into our neighborhood.
Of course.
So I see them all the time now.
See, that would drive me, knowing that we know that he knows that the kid is misbehaved. So yeah, it's like, okay, now you deserve me to say something to you.
He totally knew because when he saw the 2 of them, the other brother, the one that Amrik was friends with, was very much like, stop. Like he knew, like he was trying to tell him, but the kid didn't care. So that's happened to me. And I obviously didn't call the dad. I didn't have his number, but I could have asked the kid and I didn't. I was just like, okay, lesson learned. Like I should have just been like, oh no, I'm sorry.
Did you end up saying something?
I didn't say anything at the end when he came to pick him up. He was just like, oh, thank you so much. It was really, really a big help. Like, I can't go to the store with him. And I was like, oh, you can't take him to the store, but you thought that he would be a good addition to the party. Okay.
Yeah. And how old is his kid that he couldn't take to the store with him?
This was like in 2nd or 3rd grade, I think. So what is that, like 8 or 9?
He couldn't take his 2nd grader to the store with him alone. Wow.
Yes. And that's what he said. In the moment I thought, oh, maybe because like they're twins and one got invited and the other one didn't. I thought it was that, but I realized later. And maybe it was a little bit of that. Maybe it was a little bit of the dad not wanting to like really fully parent or just looking for a break. But it was like the weirdest situation. And I will never forget that. And I see the family all the time. And that's what I always think of is like that awkward situation that happened. So that's happened.
He's been branded that moment.
Yeah. And so, okay. So that's happened twice. the same scenario, but the second time, completely different result. The second time was a frozen birthday party that Hargun had at her karate or taekwondo dojo. And she had her friends invited, and then we had like some Punjabi friends also. Like, so for the Punjabi friends, it was just all their kids were there. And so the mom said like, oh, you know, my daughter is here. She's friends with Hargun. Thank you so much for inviting her. Would it be okay if her sister stayed as well? And she had a much younger sister who was like maybe 3 or 4. And I was like, oh yeah, that's fine. And the sister stayed, had an awesome time. Like, they were doing taekwondo activities and stuff. And then we had food and cake. And at the end, I had one of my friends did not come. And so I had an extra goodie bag and I gave it to that girl, to the little girl. And she was like, oh no, you don't have to do that. You let her participate. That was really nice. And I was like, dude, it's cool. She was really nice. She was basically just following her sister around. And
yeah, aw.
She was very quiet. It was really cute. I gave her a goodie bag. And then years later, Lisa, like 4 years later, I started working at USAA, and this lady came up to me and she was like, hi, I don't know if you remember me, but my daughter was in your daughter's class. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, yeah, I don't totally remember. I have a bad memory, but nice to meet you. Nice to see you again. And she was like, oh no, I think you'll remember, like, because I brought my younger daughter to the party and you gave her a goodie bag. And I've always remembered you because of that.
Aww.
I know. Isn't that sweet?
At the same time, though, it's also like, do other people not do that? Is it so rare?
I know. That's what I thought too. I was like, maybe people are really strict on that. I mean, that's a time where like being Punjabi is awesome because we're always like over buying and over like goodie bagging people.
Yeah, I don't think twice about stuff like that either.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we're very welcoming. Just come. The more the merrier. Let's go. We have plenty to eat. We have plenty. That's just how we're wired.
Yeah, totally. It's in our blood. And so I came home that day and I told the kids, always be nice because you never know when you're going to see that person or have to work for them. Like, I had to work with that lady then all of a sudden. And sure enough, she was super nice with me. So I was like, oh, what a small world and how things work out like that.
Yeah. Because if you hadn't given a goodie bag or if you had said no, she would have always remembered you as that mom.
Yeah, maybe. That's right.
Or she would have put you in the category of all moms.
So now I have 2 neighbors who I have like birthday stories with. One, I'm like, oh no, crossing the street when I see him. And the other one, I'm like, hey, what's going on? So, you know, the thing that I missed though about playdates was like, it was actual structured time where we spent time kind of thinking about activities and what our kids want to do together or how they could play with their and interact with their friends. And that starts to fade away as the kids get older. Like my oldest 2.
Wait. You had structured activities? Because playdates for me are just come play.
Well, no, they are. Okay, they can be just come play. But sometimes when you're thinking about what to do for a playdate, like meet at a park or meet at the library, you know, you put that little bit of time into it.
Oh, that's true. That's true. You're right.
And as kids get older, it's more like, oh, I want to go hang out with this person at the mall.
Right.
Or I like, can I go to the movies? Right. It's more of that kind of thing. And one thing that I'm sensitive about is like having some good outcome planned for the times when kids are together. And so like I had sent you that article about girls losing their confidence as they get older.
Oh my God, that article. It was a great, very insightful article. Depressing, but it's very valuable information as far as some of the positive things we can do for our girls.
Yeah, we definitely need to talk about it. So just to sum up for our listeners, so the premise behind this article was that young girls in the, I think, 2nd to 3rd grade age were interviewed, and then they're interviewed again every year until they get into their teenage years, and they're basically checking their self-confidence of the girls. And so it was the exact same women, and they're coming back with the ones that were like, I write poetry, I don't care if anybody thinks it's good or not, I'm really good at it, or I really enjoy it, started to turn into like, I write poetry sometime, and then later like, I'm not very smart, I'm not good at things, and like really they saw like a change in those kids over the period of 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's really like upsetting. And what I saw in the trend in the article, and it made me think about my own kids too, is that a lot of the social media and the social interaction starts to become like gender biased. And we start to have those little like society inputs of like how girls are supposed to behave and how guys are supposed to behave and what is girly to do and what is a guyish thing to do. And it really bugs me that it would affect their self-confidence, because I've said this before and I know you agree. Self-confidence is like the single most important determining factor to success, in my opinion, in life.
Yeah, that's why I was getting so upset during the article. I'm like, because there's so much truth to that. That's what upset me, because it just doesn't end for a girl. So the insecurity and the lack of self-confidence and having to work harder all the time. Girls have to work harder.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one of the things that they said in the article so the girls that were 12 and under, they kind of broke them from like the tweens and below and the teenagers and up, says, I make friends really easily. I can go up to anyone and start a conversation. And then a year or more into their teens, the same girls would say, I feel like everybody is so smart and pretty and I'm just this ugly girl without friends. I feel like if I acted like my true self, then no one would like me.
That's just crazy. It's so sad.
That's heartbreaking. Obviously,
Hormones play a factor, but then the question is, what do we do to try to help to counter that a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know, like you're saying, okay, puberty might play into it, but what really struck the chord with me as a mom is that it's not that this was happening in certain kids. The difference in how it's occurring with girls specifically. So they interviewed boys and girls at the younger ages, and then they interviewed boys and girls at the older ages, and it was the girls who were being affected by that. And they talk about something really specific that I think you and I are both sensitive to, because we both have at least one child that exhibits this type of behavior, which is they're people pleasers and rule followers. And so when a teacher says, you know, when a teacher has like a class of rowdy kids, the few kids that are good and are listening, the teacher will praise them, right? And say like, oh, thank you for just like being quiet and following the rules and like being in your place. And even though the teacher probably doesn't mean to do that, like they're really appreciating, like instead of having 30 rowdy kids, I only have 20 rowdy kids and these other 10 kids are really nice and they're praising them. What ends up happening is that those kids learn, I will get praise if I fit within the box and I follow the rules and I do what people expect of me. And so for girls, that's really dangerous, because the gender bias in society kind of teaches them like, be quiet, be pretty, always have a good answer, but never, you know, like don't have all the answers, and smile, but don't smile too much, and be smart, but don't be too smart. And all that stuff is like eroding their confidence. So it's really upsetting.
For me, in the end, is what can I do as a mom I'm not saying prevent it. I don't think we can ever prevent it, but at least to like just help make sure that she stays confident or she stays true to who she is. And if I feel like I'm doing something that's not helping and I wasn't aware, then I'm glad that an article like that makes me think about it. So
yeah, and helps us to recheck. So I've been thinking about that a lot, and I think it's hard to give your child activities that will help boost their confidence, but we can at least try. And I think a lot of the physical activities are the good ones that can help do that. You know, like going on a physical challenges, like let's try to climb a tree, or let's try to beat a certain time running, and getting physical and feeling strong physically, because it also has the endorphins, which you always talk about, yes, right, as being important and part of their life. And then also when you feel strong physically, it helps you to mentally connect better with your body as well.
Definitely. And it's not an overnight thing. Like you're saying, you can't just teach activities. Like you watch your parents do positive things, or being more active makes you more active, you know? So it's a process of parenting versus an overnight activity.
Yeah. And I had that little wake-up call reminder when we did the episode with our kids, and I asked Hudgun if she had a New Year's resolution, and she said she wanted to go to the gym more. And so last night I went to the gym and I was like, let's go. We're going to the YMCA.
Oh, you guys are going to the gym. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I took her because she said it made her feel accomplished, and she was like, oh, really? And I said, yeah, let's go. So that was awesome.
I love the way she said it too. It helps me feel accomplished. I just remember that.
Yes. And then the other thing I was thinking about, and I want to talk a little bit more about that, is there are a lot of activities for boys as they're going from the tweens into their teenage times that are physical. Like I'm thinking about Boy Scouts, a lot of sports and athletic programs where they are being physical. Maybe that's adding into why boys are exhibiting so much more confidence than girls do at that age. So that's something I'm thinking about. And then the other thing is like the ability to fail. So I was talking to a friend earlier today, and he mentioned with camping, he said there's not a lot of opportunities for my children to fail and for it to be okay to fail, because as parents, when we see that our child is about to fail at something like a project at school or they're trying out for a team, we save them and say like, hey, let me help you fix the project this way or do your poster in a different way so that you get a perfect score or get an A.
Or redo what you just wrote because you didn't space out your letters proportionate to the paper.
Yes, absolutely. Exactly. Okay, so that was like a personal example that you're a very specific thing that you're referring to. But yes, you get it. So and so I thought about that. I was like, oh, it's not just confidence building activities, which I think are super important, but I think we also need to have lots of opportunities where you fail and it's a safe environment to fail. So when you fail later in a public environment at school, you don't think everyone else is smarter than me, I'm dumb and I can't make any friends, or whatever the statement that the young woman said in that article.
Yeah, being okay with failure. It's okay to fail.
Yeah, finding opportunities for it.
Because you're exercising certain parts of your brain at that point where if it's a shock to your system, you're not going to be able to deal with it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I was like thinking about that, and I had a friend a few months ago who told me that her child never really participated in group sports, and so like didn't know how to respond when another child was like trash talking, saying like, oh my gosh, come on, like you didn't have a good throw or whatever, and he like really exploded. And I thought to myself, like, that's really interesting. I never even thought of that as being a benefit of being on a team, that you learn how to joke around and when to take something seriously.
Yeah, I didn't think about that either.
Yeah, so I think a lot of these things are like, we really have to be purposeful about what activities our children participate in and how they can really affect their mental outcome.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I definitely I mean, I look at Allie and I don't think sports or athlete, but I still want her to be doing something to build that confidence, that also the team spirit and learning to work with others and competing and things like that.
Yeah, totally.
So that's why I'm kind of the only thing I'm a tiger mom about, the only thing I think is swimming. That's it. Because everything else I'm very like, whatever, she'll be fine.
Yeah. You're going to push her probably like gymnastics or swimming or something.
I push her in swimming. I do. I'm very hard on her in swimming. I don't know why. The swimming thing is something for me. I don't know. Because I've seen that she enjoys it. And I noticed that as she gets it, how confident she gets. And
I was thinking even like a game in your neighborhood, like this kids on the street playing kickball, that would be like a group sport. It doesn't have to be an organized team sport. It could be like, hey, let's all get out and play something.
They're crossing off all the checks, right? They're outside, check. They're getting endorphins, check. Because of that, they're sleeping better, meaning they're going to make better decisions, check.
Then they have the group interaction. So if someone does say like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you didn't catch that, they'll be like, okay, whatever, and not, have a mental breakdown about it. And
exactly.
Be like, being too sensitive.
Yeah, no, all of that helps with self-confidence right there, So, and
yeah, totally.
Just in general, right? I mean, there's other aspects to all this because as we were talking about that, I know I'm obsessed with sleep. I'm a sleep nerd. But I do think that once your hormones are shifting and changing, the same habits won't work. But when you're young, you can't be as preventative about it. And I'm saying this in context of us because these days I've been thinking a lot about it in relation to menopause. So there's going to be a hormonal shift, right? So I've been trying to quote unquote prepare. I don't know what that means, but I'm at least trying to be cognizant that things are going to change. And at that time, and we should probably have another podcast about that.
That's what I was going to say. Sounds like the perfect topic for an upcoming podcast.
It is. Going back to these teenagers, I don't expect them to have that level of awareness. They've never gone through it. So I'm just thinking hormonal shift. So it's probably affecting their sleep. Not getting enough sleep because of these shifts can also affect your self-confidence, self-esteem.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think another aspect is also about how we always tell girls to be a certain way. I think part of it also at that age is being proud of your bodies. I don't think we say it enough to our girls that they should not be ashamed. They should not be ashamed of their femininity. They should be proud of that. They should be proud of the changes. And I think guys are more egged on, especially by dads, like, yeah, you're becoming a man, woohoo. But I don't think girls hear it as much.
Oh, you know what? I had never thought about that, but that kind of makes sense. And it goes deeper into like whatever type of body pride/shame issues that we have. And then also the way that we feel connected to our own body as well.
Exactly. The connection to our own body is very important. Very important. I know, obviously my kid's only 5, but I do know that when she explores, especially, when she's taking a bath and all, I give her that time. So I'll walk away and that's it. I don't make it something to be ashamed of. At least I'm trying.
And I think that's really important for them to know that it's in the privacy, in their private times, like they're able to do that. And there's nothing negative about that.
Yeah, exactly.
This is such great conversation. I am going to be really mindful about thinking about how we spend our free time and if we can incorporate more confidence building activities and opportunities for the kids to fail and opportunities for them to connect more with their inner self and figure out what's important to them.
Me too.
Awesome. Okay. And with that, I guess we should call it a wrap. What do you think?
Yep. Wrap away.
All right. Send us your ideas. Tell us what you think about this and other podcast episodes. We love hearing from you. And as always, thanks for listening.